Hey, what is going on YouTube? Mike here for Phandroid, and so we've had the Google Pixel 8 for quite some time now, and so far it's a pretty impressive Pixel phone. It's not a perfect smartphone though, but it does manage to get a lot of things right. Let's find out in this review. The arrival of Google's newest Pixel phones has somewhat put things into perspective, at least in terms of what Android is capable of. After all, the Pixel line pretty much serves as Google's template as how to Android should look and feel, with a combination of hardware and software features that sets it apart from competing brands. In the case of the Pixel 8, Google introduced some cool new features while managing to keep things familiar for fans. Now, while it is smaller and loses out on some exclusive features that are found on the more expensive Pixel 8 Pro, there's still a lot that Google manages to get right with its base model flagship phone. Let's take a look. Now at first glance, you'd be forgiven to think that the Pixel 8 is the Pixel 7, given that they have an overall similar design. A closer look, however, reveals some key differences between the two smartphones, and Google has included some nice little tweaks in terms of how it looks. On the outside, the Pixel 8 keeps a lot of similarities to its predecessor. Google has decided to stick the same design found on the Pixel 7 with Gorilla Glass panels surrounded by an aluminum frame that melts into the camera bar on the back of the phone. There are some changes this time around though, such as the more rounded corners and smaller display size, which makes the Pixel 8 a lot more pocket friendly. This compact design wraps around a 6.2-inch screen, which Google calls an actual display, and comes with some major upgrades over previous generations of Pixels. For one, it's a lot smoother thanks to its 120Hz refresh rate, and it's a lot brighter this time around with a peak brightness of up to 2000 nits. The Pixel 8 also comes with IP68 certification, which means it'll generally be safe from accidental splashes and dust. We wouldn't recommend taking it scuba diving or dunking it into a pool, however. Overall though, it's a pretty solid device, and there's not much to complain about here. Another change that Google has introduced this year is the newer chipset inside the Pixel 8, and of course it does come with some new software tricks as well. For this year, Google made sure to highlight the Pixel 8's new Tensor G3 chip and its AI capabilities, which work together to give it an edge over competing Android phones as well as older Pixel devices. Now, while it does offer some improvements over its predecessor, the Tensor G3 chip is by no means a performance champion. And I'm not just saying this because of all the benchmark scores that we've been seeing online. Sure, it'll be able to run most games on the Play Store, but I wouldn't recommend running more graphically intensive titles like Genshin Impact on it, as it still tends to get warm with extended gaming sessions. Where the Pixel 8 shines though is in seamless day-to-day operations. Multitasking, navigating through the user interface, and scrolling through my social feeds was very much a smooth experience, and it's pretty much safe to say that Google has nailed the essentials of what makes a smartphone, well, smart. I've never struggled with app restarts, forced closures, and freezing so far, and in general the Pixel 8 has been a breeze to use. Connectivity on the phone has been excellent as well. My unit hasn't experienced any signal drop so far, and wireless connections like Wi-Fi and data connectivity have remained consistent. As for software, the phone comes with Android 14, which I think has helped a lot in terms of power efficiency and battery life, which we'll talk about more later. Right now though, the highlight of Google's annual software update are the newly baked AI features, which are focused on giving users a richer photography and imaging experience. For one, the newly introduced Magic Editor is a pretty interesting way to get people into photo editing. It's not as robust or feature-packed like proper photo editing software, but it's amazing how Google has developed its AI software into giving users a fresh approach to how they can edit their images. It's not perfect, however, as results might be hit or miss depending on the quality of your source file. The same can be said for Best Take, which took me a number of tries before getting it to work properly. Given that these are fairly new features that are mostly processed using the cloud, there's still room for improvement, but so far what we've seen is pretty impressive. As with the design, the Pixel 8 shares a lot of similarities with last year's Pixel 7, especially when it comes to camera hardware. Now, while both phones offer similar performance in terms of image quality, there are some key factors to take into consideration. Unlike its more expensive sibling with a triple array of cameras, the Pixel 8 comes with a dual setup consisting of a main wide sensor and an additional ultra-wide lens. Google's focus on making point-and-shoot photography easily accessible for smartphone users carries over to the Pixel 8, although it does miss out on some camera features versus the 8 Pro, like the Pro camera controls, which are absent on the base model. With that said, camera quality is on point, and the Pixel 8 can capture great-looking images. If you've ever used a Pixel smartphone before, then photos on the Pixel Pixel 8 will look very similar, although the main sensor at the back does allow for better exposure and detail in photos compared to its predecessors. We actually have several camera tests and comparisons, which you can check out here on Phandroid. Photos can sometimes appear less sharp on the ultra-wide lens, however, although images overall manage to look good, especially when compared to the Pixel 6 and 7. The same can be said for the front camera, which again does a great job with point-and-shoot photography. For videos, the Pixel 8 can shoot a maximum 4K resolution at 60 frames per second, and it features different video modes such as slow motion, time-lapse, and even cinematic mode, which Google now calls blur mode. Videos tend to look good, although details suffer a bit at times. In particular, I've had trouble with the low light performance of the ultra-wide sensor, and it's in moments like these where some weaknesses of the Pixel 8's cameras tend to show. For battery, the Pixel 8 comes with a slightly larger capacity compared to last year's Google flagship, and you'll be pleased to know that it does offer an improvement in terms of endurance and overall performance. I do think that the combination of Tensor G3 and Android 14 has yielded some satisfying results so far. I've been able to get a decent amount of screen on time on the Pixel 8 and generally charge once per day, usually in the morning. Compared to my experience with the Pixel 7, it's safe to say that the Pixel 8 can definitely keep up with my daily usage. Of course, other tasks like data use, GPS navigation, and high brightness display when outdoors tends to drain the battery a bit faster. And while Google does advertise a faster charging time for the Pixel 8 compared to the Pixel 7, it's still considerably slower compared to other Android phones, especially ones from Xiaomi, OnePlus, and Oppo, for example. In terms of price, the Pixel 8 is $100 more expensive than last year's Google flagship, coming in at $699 versus the $599 price on the Pixel 7. With that said though, the Pixel 7 is of course a lot less expensive now, and you can get some pretty good deals on it now. So knowing all this, is the Pixel 8 worth upgrading to, especially for Pixel users on older devices? There's no doubt that the improvements to the phone's display quality, AI capabilities, and overall performance are promising, and Google's announcement of 7 years of software updates is a pretty great reason to pick up the Pixel 8, especially if you're looking for a smartphone to keep you company for the next several years. On the other hand, users who are after a smartphone with a focus on performance and gaming might want to look elsewhere, as the Tensor G3 still has some catching up to do with chips like the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 and Apple's A17 Bionic. It's not a terribly slow chip per se, but it's clear that Google's focus with the Pixel 8 leans more towards moderate use, with a focus on getting users what they need in terms of everyday usage. Right guys, so that does it for this review of the Pixel 8. Let us know your thoughts on Google's newest flagship phone. Are you gonna get it, or are you gonna get the 8 Pro? Or maybe you're moving over to a different brand or skipping this generation altogether. Don't forget to let us know in the comments below. Check out our other videos here on Phandroid. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.